If you're wondering about how to become a medical intuitive, this is the video for you. So, I am a medical intuitive. Now, I got to be honest, it took me a really long time to even say those words. And the reason for that is because to me, when I translate the message behind someone's pain and disease, it is logical. It's A plus B plus C equals D. It is intuitive, I now realize, but it came as such a normal, logical thing to me that I didn't really, for me to call it something intuitive or medical intuition, it just seemed like this is something I can do, right? So that might be one indication right off the bat that you might already be a medical intuitive. So if you're already a person who everybody comes to and they tend to ask you for your help and your advice, and you tend to have this like spot on and you can really see the connections between things, you might already be a medical intuitive and not realize it or not necessarily use the term as I didn't for a very long time. I finally had to have somebody convince me that that's what this is because it just seems so logical, right? So that's one. So, and number two, people think of becoming a medical intuitive as something totally woo woo. Again, I will say I don't feel it is woo woo at all personally. And the first thing is that you probably need to be or are a pattern seeker. What do I mean by that? So, everyone that I know that is a medical intuitive, they are a person who tends to be able to see the connections between things in ways that are sort of metaphorical and that they can put together into some sort of coherent, this is what's going on kind of thing. So, if you're a person that tends to see 12 degrees of cause and effect and seeing, different patterns and things. Like I can think back when I was younger and somebody would come to me and be like, "Oh, I've got this going on and that going on." And it was just like obvious to me. Well, yeah, of course you got sick because you had this specific thing happening, right? And that's just a really common thing. So you might be a pattern seeker right now in your life, and that'll tell you something about it. And the next thing is you're probably an empath. And in my experience, to be an empath, you or to be a medical intuitive, you kind of need to be a physical empath. And what does that mean? That means that oftentimes, not only are you able to sense the pain, the emotions of other people. So if you're a person who can walk into a room and you immediately sense the energy of the room, or you immediately sense that like somebody's really upset in that room without having any physical cues, that's a good indication that you're an empath. Or if you're a person who, has always been super concerned about everyone and everyone's emotions around you, you're an empath. And I'll pause there to say that I know that there's people out there that think that the only way you become an empath is through trauma and that becomes hypervigilance. And so it's not really anything within you or in your nervous system. Well, in your nervous system, I guess. It's just because you were trained how to be hyper aware of everyone else's needs because of an environment you grew up in that was dysfunctional or abusive. I can 100% tell you that is not the case. I work with so many empaths. Many empaths have had difficult environments and others have not. Okay. So, and an example is my lovely little daughter. She's probably more of an empath than I am. It became very evident she was an empath when she was like a year and a half, 2 years old. She was more sensitive than everyone else to other things. She was always looking out for all of her little friends. She was aware of the energy in the room. And I can assure you that child has the least traumatic life you can possibly imagine. So I've done a ton of research on this, a ton, and through my own experience and my daughter's experience, being able to watch her as well, we just come into the world coded as empaths. Now, do we often end up in situations that are dysfunctional and abusive and difficult, and so our empath nature gets tuned up too much? Yeah, I'll agree with that. But is trauma the only way that you become an empath? No. So that little aside being the case. So if you are an empath, that's already going to set you on the path to being able to be a medical intuitive, right? But beyond that, if you're a person who actually can physically feel the suffering, the physical suffering and pain in another person, that's kind of being a physical empath. And again, there's a ton of really interesting research on why this is. There's something called mirror neurons that we all have, everybody has them. And so the mirror neurons fire off in our brain. So if we see somebody, let's say, eating an ice cream cone, the same neurons tend to fire off in our brain as if we were eating that ice cream cone ourselves. So my personal theory, take it for what you will, is that we as empaths, some of us are just coded with more mirror neurons than others. And because of that, when someone else is going through pain or suffering or has something going on, we are more likely that our mirror neurons are actually going to fire and we are going to be open to and experiencing that particular thing. That is the case for me. Even growing up, I can remember being around someone and I would suddenly get a headache, and I didn't have a headache when I walked up to them. And then when I walked away, the headache would go away. Or I dated a guy for a while, a long time ago, and he had a lot of ear infections. And I suddenly was getting ear infections. I'd never had an ear infection in my life. And I was suddenly getting ear infections all the time. So this is what I mean by physical empath. We will actually take on, like, if I'm working with someone, I can actually feel in my body what's going on. So because of that, that can give me a lot of information that will allow me to be able to help that person translate what's going on. So the final way is once you've sort of checked off some of these. So if this is you have kind of like pattern seeking abilities, you are a sensitive empath, you are aware of other people's emotions and you take them on as your own. And maybe you're also a physical empath where you actually take it on as well. For me, the final thing is you also have to be a person who is kind of like logical, can logically see this, can take all of this information together and now create it in a way that's going to make sense and convey something to people that you want to work with. Now, that said, one of the things that I have to tell you is you can learn, especially if you have all of these skills already, you can absolutely learn to become a medical intuitive. You absolutely can. I'm personally training people in my methodology that teaches people how to translate the message behind pain and disease, anyone's pain and disease, in about a minute to 3 minutes. And everyone who's come through my program can do that exact thing accurately in about 3 minutes. So if that's something that you are interested in, check out below. And I run challenges every so often that will teach you all you need to know about yourself. So I'll teach you first how to pinpoint the underlying unconscious beliefs that may be causing pain and disease in your own life, as well as understanding more about your empath nature and how to get that under control, and how to translate the pain and disease in your own life so that you can kind of see. It's like a nice practice for helping to heal yourself and helping to understand if you're the kind of person who can put these connections together at a really deep way. Now, in saying all of that, there's probably a lot of different ways to become a medical intuitive. I'm just offering you the one that I know. So definitely, if you think you are a medical intuitive or you'd like to explore that path, please make sure that you're looking into the many different ways that you can do that. Definitely go with the thing that resonates with you the most. So if you'd like to hop in and get more information on how to become a medical intuitive in the way that I teach it, you are welcome. Check out the information under the video and you can sign up for one of my upcoming challenges, or feel free to send me a message on any of my social media and ask about my practitioner certifications. And we can just have a really quick chat and see if it's even a fit for you. Thanks so much. And please let me know if you have any questions that I can answer for you, any topics you'd like me to take on being a medical intuitive. Check out all my healing videos. That might be a great way for you to take a look and see, does this resonate? Is this the kind of work that I would like to do? There's tons of them out there. And then please, if this has been helpful, like, subscribe, and do share it if you know somebody who you think might be a medical intuitive and can use some help and guidance on that. Until the next time, have a beautiful day.